You know, I think the second week of this summer break that we're on, I've sweated off about 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's your Dracula laugh?
Dracula.
That's right. This week's WHM Summer Rerun is the fan favorite episode, Dracula 2000.
Can I say something a little personal about this episode?
Yeah, sure.
This is my favorite Eric Siska joke of all time.
What?
Oh, yeah, actually, it's mine, too.
Yeah, it's
Really?
where you peaked, and honestly, I keep waiting you to ascend back to that level, and you never have.
The Elliott Smith remark.
Wow.
It's classic.
So listen to this episode and hear when I was good on this show.
No, it's a very funny episode. We were having a lot of fun on it. Talking about, you remember the Virgin Megastore.
The super burglars.
Oh, and this is actually, I think, the first time in show history, because I think I've done it like 2 or 3 times, where I tell the story about me getting booted out of an aisle by Fred Durst's bodyguard.
You know what? Honestly, if you've only told that story 3 times, that's like 6 times too less. Because that's a great story. And here's something else. Wes Craven has passed on. I haven't listened to this episode in forever.
Yeah.
Sometime we do this show weekly. We do this show in context at the time
Of the minute.
of all the information we have available at
Minute
the time.
by minute.
And we're not going to go back and edit stuff. And I'm talking specifically about the She's All That episode. Look, Paul Walker died. We were making jokes about him before then.
Yep.
After that, we didn't make jokes about him. If we make jokes about Wes Craven in this, the dude's a master of horror. He's an amazing director. This was a shitty thing. Let's all relax.
And, you know, that goes fucking double and triple for our episodes on Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yep.
And especially Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Exactly.
And all Jim Belushi movies. Stay tuned for his death.
Now we're going to have to fucking caveat the rerun episodes as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
man. But
well.
seriously, I loved Wes Craven. And so if we're making jokes about him in this, I don't remember, but it's entirely possible.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's what it is.
Yeah, why don't you, the audience, find out?
There you go. Enjoy Dracula 2000.
The film is Dracula 2000 from, appropriately enough, the year 2000. Oh, man. I remember I caught this in the theaters.
Ouch.
Ouch is right. I was disappointed then. I was disappointed now. It's one of the problems I find with Dracula lore. And that's why, like, I don't care for a lot of those Hammer pictures that are like the nth incarnation of Dracula and he's hanging out in the 1970s and whatever. It's like Dracula should be left with fucking horse-drawn carriage culture, and that's it. Once the automobile came around, Dracula's done.
He willingly walks out into like the public square and gets burned by the sun.
Or hit by a car.
Henry Ford finally slayed Dracula, is what you're telling me?
Do you think that's what they wanted that shitty Jeff Bridges movie to be about?
Tucker, a man in his dream.
Yeah.
It's
About
his,
being a vampire slayer.
his dream of killing Dracula.
Jeff Bridges is like, well, I couldn't figure out how to kill him, so I'll just put out this line of cars. So right away, you know you're in for trouble because this Dimension Film logo comes up, and you're like, that's cool. They put out Scream. What's different about this? Oh, I know. It's fucking blood red. Thanks a lot for setting me up, Miramax.
This is a very influenced by Scream. And this is one of those the last movies that used the Scream box cover. You know what I mean? Where like it's every...
It actually just said "Scream" on it. Please rent this.
They used to trick you back in the old days. No, I mean...
The old days of the bait and switch in the video distribution market.
No. They would do... It was always the same thing. Like, since Scream, it would be like headshots of all of the major characters kind of, I guess, like, going into a vanishing point. Like, it would be always like 8 people, like... headshot into each other.
Yeah, Scream did that. Scream, I think, started it, but then Mimic did that shit.
Phantom certainly did it.
Isn't there another one in there? Maybe I'm just thinking of Mimic again.
This reminds me of when I married it. No, when I rented Dracula 2000.
I now pronounce you man and shitty movie.
That's eventually going to happen to me. But
that's what happens out in international waters. Man and cow.
But it wasn't always. It was so cool in Blockbuster when the new movie would come out. You'd have that cool. It would always get a bookshelf to itself, and it made it feel important that you were renting it, even if it was Dracula 2000.
Yeah, if I walked into a video store and there was just the wall of the same thing, I was like, "Wow, I'm really here for something."
I always hated that because I was just like, oh, they're overcompensating for this. Like, trying to make it the biggest movie ever. Like, I would only go to Blockbuster once in a while. We had this small, like, mom and pop video store, and it was always just like, it had like 4 or 5 on the shelf, and that's it. And it was not like a huge ceremony for a movie to be released on video.
That's cool. I would always go to. I went to Blockbuster like every chance I could, and I was like hiding movies for when I wanted to rent them later. I would just switch them around like a real fucking piece of garbage.
I was little snots.
I was a video store outlaw with that shit, man. It was that, and then also my sister and I had a nice game of switch the tapes in the box, which most famously occurred during Pinocchio, the Disney movie, and Pinocchio's Revenge, that shitty horror movie. We swapped those fucking tapes out.
We warped some kids' brains, and now they're killers.
So this movie, right away, by the way, it's, again, you get this Red Dimension Films logo, and you're like, okay, that's whatever. But then there's a boost of hope. Wes Craven presents, and you're like, okay, it's still 2000. He has not soiled his reputation yet.
Yeah, it was like a comeback time for him, right?
I mean, yes.
When did Scream come out?
First Scream was 96. Second Scream was 99, but then I think this, actually, you know what? I'm going to correct myself on this. I think this was right when he fucked himself, because Scream 3 was also the year 2000.
Yeah, that's the end of it.
That's a wretched movie. So we start this flick, useless Dracula flashback.
It's just, it's the credit sequence, and it's a bunch of, you think you're about to, like, it's going to start out in the olden days, because it's like Dracula's on this, it's a boat, and everyone's dead, and there's like a coffin.
There's some dirt around, because that's how Dracula sails around the world with earth. He needs earth, right?
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, this is cool. This is how the movie's gonna start. And like he finally gets to the shores of London. He's like standing in a catacomb like Jack the Ripper, and then it's like London 2000. Like, what the fuck just happened?
It's such a tease. And also, we should get right into it. This movie is one of those shitty things where it's like, oh yeah, that Bram Stoker book Dracula, that's such a bunch of hooey. And it's like, I hate that, because it gives you this false idea of like, well, that's just a stupid book, but this story's the real deal.
Does that make Bram Stoker a journalist? Like, what? was he field reporting Dracula?
He was embedded with the Draculas.
I love the trend, and you can catch a lot of these on Netflix, the whole trend of like, if I just put Bram Stoker's in front of whatever the fuck vampire movie, cha-ching, and it's some of the worst shit you'll ever watch in your life. Like Bram Stoker's Dracula's Garage Sale. It's just like, who gives a shit?
Bram Stoker's Dracula Party?
Yeah, and it's like he fucking did one of these, and no one cares.
But that also happens in Hook, too, is like Maggie Smith is like, oh, that nice man J.M. Barrie was across the street, and oh, did he spin a tale about us? It's like, no!
Didn't they presuppose in that movie that J.M. Barrie was also an orphan and she had raised him?
It's so crazy. It's like, I don't like when the fiction is real, and like, just pretend in your world that book never came out. And like, so it's a surprise to everybody.
It just makes no additional like positivity. It doesn't make your story any stronger that like that was the fake story and this is the real thing. Like it's so fucking useless. Yeah. So the person taunting the fact that his life was based off of whatever is Christopher Plummer, playing what you're first introduced as a descendant of the real Abraham Van Helsing.
Yeah, Matthew Van Helsing, he calls himself.
Great. And if I recall correctly, when I saw the movie for the first time in the theater, I was like, well, he's just Van Helsing somehow. Like, I don't know how they're going to rope this in, but he's definitely just Van Helsing, somehow alive in 2000, and wow, what a fucking shock.
Well, because he's introduced Johnny Lee Miller as, like, his assistant or whatever, and he's like, oh, Matthew, we've got this great new crossbow, and he's just like, isn't this interesting? And he's like, yes, put it in my private collection. Like, oh, you're Abraham Van Helsing then, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, exactly. That's where you put all the things that you remember from 200 years ago.
All the stuff he pawned back in the day.
Absolutely.
You think it's like the Inside Man with Christopher Plummer, where he's got all those like terrible Jewish war bonds or whatever the fuck evil shit he was up to in that movie?
I don't remember what exactly they were trying to scheme out of that. I just remember the end of it is Clive Owen hides in an air duct for like 2 weeks or something.
That's a movie that has a surprise Holocaust at the end. You're like, oh, this is about the Holocaust? All right, fine by me, I guess.
Yeah, just write it in, whatever. So we're introduced to those two, Johnny Lee Miller and Matthew Van Helsing. They're antique dealers, and one night there's a break-in at the Van Helsing antique shop, and it's a cast of some of 2000's most lovable losers
As super burglars.
Man, the whole concept of super burglars is so annoying to me.
It's a myth. It's not real.
It's like the giant squid. Like, it's just a fake thing that someone made up.
Those are just old stories.
When that man wrote that book about super burglars.
That's a bunch of hooey.
But it's because it always seems like you're spending too much money to steal things that are worth less than what you're spending to steal them.
Exactly. It's such a backwards plan. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna be underwater with this scheme before it even gets off the ground.
You're in the red, man.
So this cast of characters is led by Omar Epps. You got That 70s Show and Scientology's Danny Masterson.
Oh, is he a Scientologist?
Oh, that whole fucking family's
Oh, the whole
Scientology.
clan, huh?
I think
They
it's
got
a
'em
Beck
all.
thing where they were like raised in
Oh,
the
yeah.
church or whatever. Ooh.
That's just a myth. That's a bunch of hooey.
When he wrote that book about Scientology.
That nice L. Ron Hubbard watched our lives and wrote a book about it.
I'd much rather read Bram Stoker's Diadetics or whatever that book is.
When you drink 7 blood thetans.
Your E-meter goes off the chart, and you're impervious to sunlight.
Man, I can't wait for that fucking The Master, by the way.
It's gonna happen.
Ooh, that trailer's bone chilling.
I worry for our good friend Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't
Yeah?
know what's gonna
I
happen.
think people are going to camp outside his house.
Something's going down.
Phil Hoffman's going to have a heart attack on the premiere day or something.
Yeah,
Mysteriously.
And then Tom Cruise went, it's 'cause he's fat. He's not pure like me. When you're fat, you're not pure.
So speaking of worst movies, so you got Omar Epps, you got Danny Masterson, you got Lochlyn Munro.
What?
Hollywood's permanent 4th grader.
See, I thought it was really funny that Andrew actually knew this character's name.
Yeah, it's pathetic. I mean,
Actor's name, I mean, sorry.
well, no, he's a character.
Yeah,
He's probably a real character
I
on
bet.
whatever celebrity poker show he's on right now.
he's probably a real cut-up.
Well, I know him. I've seen pathetically the first Scary Movie like a bunch of times. He's also in Freddy vs. Jason, which I've seen a bunch of times. And is he not the guy who they try to get to kill himself in Dead Men on Campus?
Yes, he is. And I recently rewatched that.
Does that
So
hold
was
up?
good No, that never held.
Yeah, I actually
that
never really held much.
shit.
That movie does not hold water.
No.
As my cousin Vinny would say.
So, so he's involved. The dude from Save the Last Dance, whose name I can't remember.
I don't know. Yeah.
And then there's an extra guy with a ponytail there who. This is the thing. If it's the year 2000 and you can point out the rest of those actors, guess what? That guy's the first one to get killed. Or so you'd think. Take that, Lochlyn Munro, by the way.
Yeah, he gets fucking ganked. And also, Jennifer Esposito is like the inside man again. It's like the inside one that works with Christopher Plummer and kind of sets them up on this thing. So these are super criminals, right? They bust in, they knock out all these guards. The guy from State of the Last Dance is a super hacker. He's like, get the codes.
Gotta have the hacker.
And they're not like, it's a thing where it's like, they're not there for it's like Die Hard, right? They're only there for one thing. Don't worry about the top 10 floors.
Yep.
It's just the basement we want.
Yep.
So they crack in, they go in there, and it's a ghoulish cavern.
And I mean, you brought this up, Stephen. It's probably the first biggest plot hole of this movie, right? The idea of like, you're spending all this money on gadgetry, on getting presumably the best of the best, which is like, with this crew, really, that's all you could muster, but whatever. You're doing all these things, you're planning all this shit. they don't know what they're there to steal. And the whole concept is Jennifer Esposito's all, hey, I work for this old guy. There's got to be a lot of rich antiques all over the place.
And you're the inside person on the job, and you don't know what's on the inside.
Yeah, how about a little fucking research, everybody?
Her whole reasoning is like, look, you don't lock up all this stuff with such great security if it's not worth a lot. You might. I mean, like, maybe it's personal stuff. Maybe it's child pornography. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm sure there's some interesting things in vaults that don't have to do with money.
No, exactly. And like, it's something that's possibly just personal to you. So, your own blood, toenail clippings, hair, urine samples, stool samples, whatever.
Mason jars full of urine. I think that's what I would keep down there.
Maybe an 8mm.
This is where my favorite scene of the movie takes place, actually, is because Omar Epps gets pissed off because they don't really know what they're there to steal yet. And,
yeah.
I mean, shouldn't he have been mad? He should have been mad a while back instead.
But
not right there. So then, like, they're in these like catacombs with Jennifer Esposito, and then he grabs a skull out of the catacombs. It's like, what's this crap? Like, what are we here? Like, what are we here to? And he gets pissed off and he throws it on the ground.
That used to belong to a human being's
it
body.
Shatters. He's like, well, I don't know what we're stealing, but I'm going to desecrate some corpses.
Yeah, now you're in the middle of a haunting. Congratulations, Omar Epps.
Yeah, exactly. You may come out of here with nothing, but guaranteed you're coming out of here with a ghost trailing behind you.
And this is a missed opportunity because you don't often see a two-punch shot of Dracula and a vicious haunting, a good specter.
Oh, yeah, totally, man. If, like, a vicious poltergeist teamed up with Dracula.
Right?
Or Dracula has to be like, my beef's not with you, ghost.
And then initially, Dracula doesn't even know what the hell's going on. Like, this books are moving up and down this guy's place. And it's just like, what? That's not me. Is that you?
Do you think that
Do you have super cool powers too?
Do you think a vampire condescends to a ghost because it's like, well, at least I'm dead and corporeal. You're just a fucking ghost.
I guess so. Because, I mean, like, obviously Dracula makes fun of Frankenstein all the fucking time, right?
Right. I mean, because that's something I think about sometimes, right? Like, what is the power structure of the
hierarchy?
monster party?
Oh, Dracula's very towards the top.
Yeah, vampires are probably on top,
He's
right?
always the leader because he's like, because it's always kind of the thing you most want to be, right? Because you look as human as possible, but you have crazy superpowers. You're kind of smart. You're bisexual, which everybody wants to be anyway. Right, everybody?
AC/DC. And so, yeah, he's at the top because, like, he walks the earth. He's got his wits about him. He's got, like, we're talking a lot of life experience. That's up the wazoo right there. And then, like, like a Frankenstein monster is basically just a reanimated corpse. That's basically a zombie with feelings, right?
Yeah, that's what you don't want to be. I'd rather just be a zombie than a zombie with feelings.
And a ghost is like, I could fuck some shit up a little bit, but, like, I got my limits. I'm not walking the earth.
I'd say the number 2 is probably a werewolf, right?
That's what I was going to say, because the werewolf's kind of the best of both worlds because you still get your sunlight. You get to hold down a nice regular life 29 days out of the month, and then you fuck shit up for a little while.
Well, it's kind of like probably being like in the ROTC,
He's
it's
in
like,
the reserves.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the monster reserves, but every once in a while, you're probably like, man, it's my weekend to be in the monster reserves, but there's a fucking concert coming to town that I really want to see, and I can't go, so I gotta lock myself in a jail cell. Stupid monster ROTC.
After that, you got your centaur.
I think the mythology hierarchy is a completely different pyramid.
It's a different table, yeah.
So Dracula 2000.
So it's they get there and all of these super criminals are like, what the fuck, man? You told us it was going to be this thing. You said there's going to be a lot of cash and jewels all over the place. Mm-hmm. Also, like, you don't know what you don't know what you're getting, right?
Uh-huh.
Best case scenario, it's artifacts. You need to know people who are going to fence that shit. And it's not, you can't just go to any Johnny fence. You need to know the guys in the art world, depending, or like people that could, fence fucking Ottoman shit or whatever.
Exactly. And that's what I never understand about these heists that are like art based or jewel based. Is like, so you're a crooked person and you have to, do this crooked deed and whatever. But then you got to find a crooked person to appraise it all.
Yeah, he's got to appraise it. He's taking some off the top.
And then you got to get a crooked collector because, like, when they steal a painting out of a museum or something, you can't just tell people like, yeah, that's the original Van Gogh.
Right.
You got to be the type of person that like keeps that to yourself, hangs it above your toilet and acts like it's a print. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's not enough for me.
Whenever I hear like, oh man, someone stole the Scream again, and I'm like, well, what the fuck are you gonna do with it?
Yeah.
There's never that next step in the thought process.
I'm gonna go appreciate the hell out of this at home. Like that's your only option,
No,
really.
unless you're like a supervillain and you're throwing a supervillain party,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you're like, and this is the original Scream that I stole, and everyone's like, oh,
Yeah.
and like a like polite golf clap.
Yeah, totally. That's putting you up the villains, spectrum. You're getting the next level if they got some that shit.
And just because we said Scream before, we're not talking about the film, we're talking about the painting now,
the
right?
Edvard Munch.
We switched gears here for a minute.
One particular line of dialogue that I love in this scene is so they finally open this door or whatever, and there's Dracula's coffin hanging out, his big fucking steel coffin. And they're like, man, this is bullshit. There's just a coffin in there. And I believe it's Omar Epps that has the line,
The skulls are to scare us. The crosses, the coffin, all of it. It's a grand spanking mind fuck to scare off thieves. If you make a killing, why hide it in a safe?
When you can hide it in a coffin.
never once am I like, you know what, look at all these valuables I have. How about putting it in a coffin?
You know, that's what I say when I see bodies. Look at all these bodies I have.
Why would I put this body in a safe when I can put it in a coffin?
But I think at this point it's like, oh my god, I wasted a month of my team's time. They're gonna kill me. Like, it's all in the coffin, guys. You know, like that kind of a thing.
Well, because the other problem with this is I think he probably feels most responsible because he and Jennifer Esposito are an item in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh man, I listened to my girlfriend about hatching this plan. She swore up and down that there was going to be a bunch of riches in here. All these guys are going to kill me. Like, it's my girlfriend. It's on my shoulders.
Yeah.
He's pissed. And he starts like, it's uncomfortable a little bit because he starts like throwing her around a little. Like, you fucking said there was stuff in here.
Yeah,
And
he
she's
holds
like,
a
"What do you
knife to
want
her
from
throat
me?"
at one point.
Well, that's his greeting to her. That's even worse. Before he's totally pissed off about this dire situation, she comes up behind him and he fucking puts a knife right in her throat and holds it way longer than it needs to be.
But you see how intensely he feels in that moment. That shows her that he really cares about her.
Is that what that means?
I think that's how girls work.
Okay.
I might be mistaken.
So they try to like jimmy this thing open or whatever. And shockingly, Ponytail Guy is not the first to go because this big wrought iron fucking spike fence comes down and just kills Lochlyn Munro flat out.
Yeah, right over his dumb head. He's got the dumbest look on his face. I mean,
He's just kind of mouth breathing all over this movie. And then it's almost a simultaneous death because another like spiked gate comes down and kills Ponytail Guy.
Yeah.
at this point, the alarm goes off, and Matthew Van Helsing's like listening to like some sort of opera, and he's doing this weird ritual of taking Dracula leeches that have been on Dracula, draining them, and pumping the blood into his arm. And it's kind of like Train Spotting, which is like he's got this really like gross ass arm.
Yeah, it's nice having that Johnny Lee Miller connection.
Oh yeah.
So you're like, what's he doing here? And again, I remember sitting in the theater being like, oh, all right. Well, this is definitely how he lives forever.
Yes.
Like, there's no surprise to this whatsoever.
Don't worry, they'll explain it to you in detail in 25 minutes.
So he rushes down there, and at this point, they have somehow carried this iron coffin out of this cavern through a hole in the wall that they blow.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Are you kidding me? This thing's like obviously like a ton.
And by then, the alarms have gone off, and Christopher Plummer's running his ass down there. And they pick up this giant coffin, Dracula and all, and get it out of there before Christopher Plummer can even get down there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nuts to me. I mean, I know he's an older gentleman, but but you're two men down. You're carrying like this giant metal casket.
Speaking of Christopher Plummer, by the way, watching this last night, and the missus brings up a really great point about how Christopher Plummer always gets really pissed off when people bring up his role in The Sound of Music.
Oh really?
Yeah, and it's like, are you fucking serious, dude? You're in Dracula 2000 right now, and you've got a problem with people coming up to you about a classic movie?
What? Because he's a Nazi in that movie? Is that what it is?
No, he's not a Nazi at all.
I never saw that movie. That was a shot in the dark.
No, Captain Von Trapp, man. He's the father of the Von Trapp family. He's a good dude.
All right.
They escaped the Nazi. How have you never seen this?
How do you think they escaped? They collaborated.
Well, can you just imagine? Like that's like I don't know. That's like Roy Scheider being pissed off that like someone comes up to him and was like, "Oh man, I fucking loved you in Jaws, Roy Scheider."
It's sort of like Harrison Ford being mad at Han Solo. Like,
Yeah.
I just
talk
don't
to me
get that. And I mean, maybe it's because I don't have an iconic role under my belt that I get harassed about every day. But I mean, come on, man. Like these people that take that shit for granted, I just don't get it. Especially when you're doing shit like Dracula 2000
And Wolf.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly.
You know, if I ever ran into Christopher Plummer, I'm bringing up General Chang from Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
He's awesome in that movie.
He's the best.
I've
part.
seen Star Trek 6. I haven't seen The Sound of Music.
Nice. I was waiting for another one of those to come up because you finally saw Casablanca.
I did,
that was ruined.
That one got crossed off the list, but Sound of Music is up there now. So like Johnny Lee Miller comes up, he's like, "Ow!" And Johnny Lee Miller's using his real accent in this movie, and usually like he's either doing a really bad American accent or like
Hackers.
or a subdued British accent, or in the case of Trainspotting, a Scottish accent. But this is like his real talk, and it's just the most uber British he's ever sounded.
Yeah, he's really chimney sweeping it up in this movie.
Yeah, he is. And he's like, "Oh no!" So he's like, "Oh, Matthew, what's going on? Where are you going?" And he's like, "Someone broke into my safe and I need to go find them." And he's like, "All right, I'll go with you." He's like, "You can't come with me. You have to run the business." Like, what they steal from the safe? And he's like, "Nothing. Some things." He's like, "Things I've acquired, maybe not legally." And I'm like, "Are you a secret Nazi?" Like, if I'm working for a 70-year-old man in Europe who's got a secret vault that he doesn't want anybody to know about, I'm like, what's going on?
Dude, that's totally the rape of Europa, man. He's got a bunch of paintings down there that he stole from Jews.
Yeah, exactly. I would always be fearful. I mean, now the fear of secret Nazis is, we're almost done with secret Nazis.
We're about turning that corner.
Yeah, I mean, give it another like 10 years, secret Nazis are over with.
The clock is winding down for secret Nazis.
Unless secret Nazi Dracula.
Eric Siska presents Secret Nazi Dracula.
Directed by U-Bowl.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
So the heist happens, and Christopher Plummer's like, "I have to go on vacation. Watch my antique store." And he's like, "Whatever." All right. Cut to our heroine of the movie, Mary Van Helsing, who's having all sorts of nightmares about Draculas and whatnot. God, I hate the whole "he's in my dreams"
I hate
fucking
that
thing.
because it's happened in so many movies, and it's just like, just get to it, because there's always like 5 dream sequences before the character meets the character, and it's like, well, I'm already bored with this because I've seen it 6 times now.
Yeah, totally. So she's having all sorts of night terrors and whatnot, and she's got her roommate Vitamin C.
Oh man,
Who ever thought? And I was sitting there, I was like, "Who is this chick? She looks kind of familiar. Oh, that's Vitamin C. That's horrible."
ew.
So they're roomies, and she like comes in and she's like, "Time for your coffee, rise and shine, because we have to pick up our shifts at the Virgin Megastore."
Oh my god, this is the most egregious product placement I've ever seen.
I mean, what? It's like, and this is weird because this is a shitty movie, and we harp on it because it's in a shitty movie, but no one mentions this being a problem in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah, that's true.
They work at fucking Best Buy. Best Buy is all over that movie. And it's the same thing here. They work at the Virgin Megastore. At every chance they get.
Key difference.
Yeah.
One's a tolerable movie and one is not. Like 40-Year-Old Virgin's fine. It's got some good jokes. It's a watchable flick.
Yeah.
This is not. So
No, it's not.
Also, yeah, good point, Eric. Other key difference: one doesn't fucking transpose a character from classic literature and makes him thumb around to Best Buy like Dracula has to go to Virgin in this movie.
Oh, these children of the night and their compact discs.
Time to buy the new Disturbed record.
These DVDs. Oh, and that's not it. I lost it.
Do you think the Stoker estate was like, "Are you serious? There's so much new metal in this soundtrack. Dracula shouldn't listen to new metal." Like, the character of Dracula and the music of Disturbed should never cross paths.
Dracula would not appreciate it.
No, he'd be like, where's a violin on a rickety Victrola?
I feel like if Dracula listened to anything, it would be like Annie DeFranco or something. Do you know what I mean? Like,
What's he
just
pick up chicks?
a little bit of that, but it's also like it's all like piano based. And he's like, I can at least understand what this is.
I remember when I used to feel.
It reminds me of all the poetry I read in college.
I got it, by the way. Dracula's favorite recording artist, Elliott Smith. He had such a poetic ending.
And a stake to the heart.
Good gravy. You're totally right, though.
Eric checked his calendar yesterday and figured out it was appropriate to tell that joke today.
There's just today's date and a big circle and a smiley face. It's time.
Yep. Listen to Needle in the Hay all day to prepare.
So they just work at Virgin Megastore for no reason. This movie made me realize I kind of miss Virgin Megastore because, I mean, like,
You like to browse.
I do. I love to browse, man. But they had a really solid DVD collection. At least the ones in the city did. I don't know about, other chains of it or whatever.
I like record stores and music stores. I mean, like, yeah, it's a sad thing that those things are gone. Like,
Yeah.
I always love I went to an FYE that still exists somewhere because I live in New Jersey now, and there's still FYEs in New Jersey, and it's just they still have like the CD sampling station.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, wow, this takes me back.
I was in Rest Its Soul, the Virgin Megastore in Times Square one time back in like the early 2000s. And I'm just looking through some CDs. It was a great time killer, That's what the best part about it was, just killing time. And I just feel this person behind me. And I look, and there's a gigantic, like, 7-foot man in like an oversized black t-shirt.
Was it Frankenstein?
No, it was just this very angry looking man. And he goes, "Excuse me, sir. I'm going to ask you to leave this aisle." And I was like, "Why? What happened?" And he just looks me dead in the eye. Like he couldn't believe I even had the audacity to ask him this question. And he just goes, "Mr. Durst is trying to shop." And I fucking look behind this guy, and there is Fred Durst just looking at the back of a CD, and I'm the only one in the aisle with this man. And I'm like, does this asshole really need a whole aisle to himself?
You should have pulled out a pistol, shot him, and yelled, "Sip Semper Tyrannis."
That's what he was always afraid of, getting assassinated.
I saw him. I saw his face. Oh. There's something wrong with me, Lucy. There's something so wrong.
So, like, she's like, "Oh, I'm having all these terrible nightmares." She's got a friend who's a priest. So there's a lot of, I mean, like, there's Christianity in the Dracula myth. There's Christianity in the vampire myth. But this movie is like produced by Kirk Cameron. There's a secret Kirk Cameron credit in this film somewhere.
Yeah, I think like if you went back and looked at it, the E in West had like an accent over it. It's like Wace Craven. It's like fucking Kirk Cameron's Gnome de Film or whatever. You know what I mean? Because they really start laying it on pretty thick, like the love of Jesus in this movie.
That's. I think Christianity and horror goes, like, especially Catholicism and horror goes like really hand in hand in a great way.
The Exorcist,
absolutely. So you could do that, and this
The
movie
Da Vinci Code.
The Da Vinci Code, absolutely. And but this movie just whiffs on it big time. And
well, especially the big twist that they have at the end of this movie, which we'll get to.
And like, I'm like, oh, cool, Nathan Fillion, like 2000 Nathan Fillion, didn't know he existed back then. I thought he was.
This was pre his season on Buffy, right?
Oh yeah.
Because he was in the last season of Buffy.
Yeah, which I think is like 2002, 2003.
Yes, yeah.
So this is like pre-Firefly, pre-everything. And like, oh, cool. I hope he's gonna. And like, he's a priest. I always kind of like priest characters that like get into trouble and start doing shit.
They've been doing that lately.
But
by lately, do you mean centuries?
Yeah, I'm still on my Dracula clock.
What is this new habit they're all forming? By the way, it's horrible, and it's coming from me saying this.
It's too bad for Dracula.
I'm a monster.
Say what you want about Dracula. He believes in the age of consent. Dracula don't fucking fiddle with kids, though. I'll tell you that much.
No, and that's the bit of bullshit in that interview with the vampire, by the way. Like, Kirsten Dunst's character is all upset because she's, like, looking at that naked chick in the window, like, I'll never be that. fuck you, Brad Pitt.
Is he fucking that kid in the books? I mean,
I don't know.
Well, if you could, if anyone wants to check out audibletrial.com/WHM and see if F. Murray Abraham tells you
does he fuck the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, write into weallhatemovies@gmail.com if that happens.
Because you know what? I'm just not going to read Anne Rice. I saw that movie and I saw the Aaliyah one, and that's my only experience with Anne Rice adaptations.
I think it's pretty probably heavily implied that they are, in fact, lovers.
Yeah.
But that they have, but probably by then she has lived long enough that
like
she's not actually a child in her mind.
No, she's not, and that's the whole thing of the movie is like when she's at that scene where she's looking in the window and she's like, "I'll never be that because you turned me into a fucking vampire when I was 12 years old, you bastard."
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen that. Is that a good movie? That's something that I wonder if it holds up.
I think I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it.
I remember a low point of that movie being Antonio Banderas.
Oh, yeah.
We are the only real evil left. And he does the fire of it. That's I saw it like 3 years ago because I remember that line. It's not a great movie. It's a totally watchable movie.
Yeah.
It's not like a great vampire movie, but if you kind of dig that stuff, it's cool.
It's a better vampire movie than what we brought to the table today.
Yeah. At the end, Tom Cruise is driving around in a Ferrari.
Well, because what's his name? Christian Slater's driving around the Ferrari, and he does like the pop up from the back
And
seat.
you know what? Guns N' Roses is a trade up from fucking Linkin Park in this.
Very, very well
And they're
said.
covering the Stones. So there you go. Just before we put Age of Consent to bed,
Heaven forbid.
Which is a great way to put that, by the way.
a thing about Dracula shouldn't be so high on his horse because versus the priests, I mean, because he is after girls who are like 18, 19, 20 when he's like 580 or whatever.
Well, what are you saying? He's got to go for like fucking Cloris Leachman?
Yeah. You want someone at least who can remember the Crimean War with you.
I think Cloris Leachman remembers the Crimean War.
Oh, she read about it.
I heard about Prussia once. Not the same conflict. So it's this whole thing. Like, Mary has made it very clear to Vitamin C that she's having these issues. And instead of like seeking professional help, like she just talks to her ditzy roommate, and Vitamin C is just like, I don't know. I mean, I think you should probably just take some more vitamins and just get sleep and just, why don't you meditate and do yoga?
Hey guys, remember graduation day? That was fun.
Friends forever.
Oh God, that song.
But I mean, yeah, like the whole thing is like, you have all these horrible problems. Yeah. And you're going to this friend of yours for advice. It's horrible.
She goes to a friend and then she goes to a priest, and
I mean, that's no sort of advice.
No, exactly. You need somebody that can give you medication. And she's to go to this priest, and she's like, "Well, what did my mother tell you in confession?" And he's like, I have these sacraments, right? And that's like big on that list. I can't just start gabbing to you about what your mother said in confession.
Yeah, like there's only 7 of them. Like I have to keep that,
I already blew one of them.
Leave that up to your imagination.
Then we're on. Oh yeah, go ahead. One thing I want to touch on, by the way, is Gerard Butler in this movie as Dracula. That Kenny G fucking mullet, man. This thing is like early 90s Jerry Seinfeld. Like it's really fucking big.
Well, I think what they're trying to imply is he's always had this haircut. It's a timeless haircut, like kind of like when Angel they'd flashback, Angel would have that huge mullet.
Yeah, Angel did have that. Well, David Boreanaz, they always made him look like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast when they did the Angel flashbacks. I mean, it's really terrible. And, you want to get with the times, Dracula, okay? Like, you're going down to New Orleans. It's like Mardi Gras. You want to be hip and whatever. And I know you can just, like, stare at a chick and she'll come to you and whatever. But, like, I don't know. How about just caring about your appearance? Like, you look so out of date.
I think it's sort of like also like maybe kind of like a rock star type of implication. Like he's wearing all black.
Yeah.
He's got kind of long hair. He looks a little effeminate, which entices you a little bit. And,
But the problem is, this is like, it's pre-300 Gerard Butler. It's pre-Reign of Fire Gerard Butler. Right. He's very tiny in this movie.
Yeah,
he's still got like those glorious washboard abs, but like, he's small in the shoulders, small in the arms. So with like that body, the very thin face and that hair, he just looks like goofy Steve Coogan. Sleep with that.
He does. Well, I'm sure Steve Coogan's done all right. Just throw that out there. But so like they're on the plane. Now like these super criminals have their own plane.
Right.
They've made zero money on this, and they're all standing around this coffin like, all right, Danny Masterson, you drew the short straw. Get this thing open. And already there's been this like kind of hilarious, it kind of reminded me of that scene in Hot Shots Part 2 where like everyone starts getting cut open at the same time and like they have to wrap it up because everyone keeps getting cut over on this coffin and the blood keeps going inside so Dracula can drink it.
Yeah, which is so stupid. Here's the thing, right? You're Christopher Plummer. You're fucking Abraham Van Helsing. You know what it will take to bring Dracula back to life, okay? You're putting him in this coffin that you made out of silver and whatever. Why is it blood penetrable?
Yeah.
How is the blood getting in there? How did you miss that? What is the matter with you? You're supposed to be a professional fucking vampire hunter.
Why are there air holes in there? He's a fucking vampire.
Maybe to keep the leeches alive or something.
Oh, yeah,
so
maybe the leeches.
Why am I trying to explain the movie? I mean, the movie failed to explain it.
So yeah, so like Danny Masterson like is trying to do it, and all this blood gets in there, and then like Dracula pops up, and Dracula looks coolest at this point because he's all like, he's like all prosthetics. He's got like long white hair. He kind of looks like the Tom Cruise at the end of Interview with the Vampire.
Yes.
He also kind of looks like if you ever played Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Alucard.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 nerds just cheered in unison somewhere.
It's for those of you who don't know Alucard, by the way, it's the Crypt Keeper. He looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Yes.
So he pops out of this coffin because Danny Masterson's been bleeding all over the place. Well, he does the whole thing is they're trying to, of course, get the coffin open because there's jewels inside.
They assume.
And, you know, he gets this coffin open. It's like, good for you, Danny Masterson. You know what, though? If there's a fucking body in there, you know what I'm not doing? Poking and prodding it and pulling leeches off of it.
I mean, that's what I was watching this movie. I was like, why wouldn't you just go and be like, hey, guys, I got it open?
Yeah.
But
hey,
then
guys, we completely wasted our time. There's just a body in here because it's a coffin.
Yeah.
Open the fucking hatch at the back of the plane and let's just kick it out. We'll cut our losses.
Hey, guys, I think he's got Byron in here. I don't know this. I'm not entirely sure. It might be Byron.
So, yeah, he gets bled all over, and so he comes to life, kills Danny Masterson.
And, yeah, then he comes out, and he kind of, like, seduces Jennifer Esposito in front of Omar Epps, and, like, Omar was like, dude! And, like, he vampires her real quick.
He vampires her, vampires Omar Epps. Well, he bites Omar Epps and becomes a vampire later. Kills the shit out of does he kill him or does he vampire him?
Oh, the other guy?
He vampires all of them,
yeah,
actually.
They all become vampires.
They all get vampired. But it's a big, stupid, like, slasher on a plane thing for a little bit. So he eliminates them one by one.
It also tries to set up some rules about Dracula because Omar Epps shoots a gun into the hull of the ship or whatever. Airplane.
There it is.
And then light comes in and he, like, Gerard Butler can't go through the beam of light.
Right.
So that they end up just flying into a thunderstorm conveniently.
Well, that was a weird thing, was it really appears like this thunderstorm was created out of evil.
Right. I think it's a Dracula thunderstorm. I think Dracula.
This is a thing that's a bit of bullshit, and we've run into this with other things before. It's like these movies that make up their own rules for these things. As a matter of fact, Vampire in Brooklyn, it's the same thing. Like, you're just making up shit that vampires can do.
Yeah.
When the fuck has a vampire ever controlled the weather? When has that ever happened? Ever?
It's kind of like the scene in X2 and, like, Storm's making the clouds happen on the plane.
Yeah, maybe there's like because it's Dracula and he's like Mr. King vampire. Maybe he just brings along the gloomy weather, Transylvania, everywhere he goes. He's like the John Cusack of vampires.
It's just always raining on Dracula.
Why does it always rain on me?
So Van Helsing gets to New Orleans, and there's the most convenient news report in the history of news reports.
It's unbelievable. Like, he's walking, like he's just got there, and he's walking through the airport, and it's like...
We have shocking footage of the presumed pilot. Sensitive viewers may want to turn away. He was bizarrely lashed to the yoke with radio cable and bound in twisted pipe. The remaining 4 victims, as well as an antique silver coffin, were removed to nearby Clark, where a tiny town hall has been transformed into a morgue tonight.
news report, a plane crashed, and there's all these bodies, blah, blah, blah.
There's all these bodies, and like it's Jerry Ryan from Star Trek Voyager.
Yes,
She's Voyager. And she's like, oh, I'm here at the bayou where this happened, and the plane landed here. This is some disturbing footage, and there's like shots of people dead in the plane.
That would never happen, even on like today's disgusting 24-hour news cycle. No. They would never be like, and now a bunch of corpses.
The parade begins, and she has this like really convenient line, and it makes no sense, and it doesn't serve the movie. I mean, it sets the stage for an action scene. She's like, and because it happened here, there's no morgue, so it's in a town hall instead.
What are you talking about? Like, all right, it's a small town, fine. Like, you're just gonna drive it to a hospital because you know what? There's 4 people. I understand maybe like a DC-10 goes down somewhere and there's like fucking 300 people you have to figure out. Then you're renting out the high school gymnasium. Then you're doing whatever. There's like 5 people on this plane.
Yeah.
It's just like, drive these corpses to the hospital.
Oh, it's during Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah, everything's shut down for the weekend.
We're never going to get through the traffic.
There's just so many corpses already in there from Mardi Gras and partying, etc.
So Van Helsing gets to town, and instantly Johnny Lee Miller's like, hey, I followed you here, which is just so fucking dumb. There's a line somewhere where he's like, Christopher Plummer is like, how did you know where I was going or whatever? Okay. And he's like, it helps to have a friend who works at Heathrow.
Well, Johnny Lee Miller's character is kind of like this guy, this like badass kid that was taken under Van Helsing's wing. Like, because later when Van Helsing dies, spoiler alert, he's like, I owe your father. He made a man out of me. I used to be like a shitty punk kid.
Now I deal antiques with him. Yeah. He really set me on the straight and narrow.
So, yeah, they get to this high school gymnasium, and all these vampires start coming alive, and he's like, all right, Johnny, if you're going to follow me, you have to realize, trust your eyes because vampires are real. And he's like, really? Vampires are... If I'm working for a guy named Van Helsing, and who says that he's descends from the line that Van Helsing was
right,
fucking, I'd always kind of half suspect vampires were around.
Oh yeah, and honestly, that would kind of entice me to stay around working at this shitty antique shop. Like, yeah, sure, I'll look at a bunch of old vases with you because eventually one day vampires are going to come, and I'll help you fight vampires. The problem with these vampires, by the way, is they are so snappy with the one-liners, all this shit. I thought fucking Dennis Miller was going to come out of somewhere, and it's that fucking shitty... What's that fucking movie he did? Bordello of Blood, where they're all vampires? Him and Angie Everhart?
Yeah, that's the title.
That might be a fucking stay tuned to We Hate Movies near you.
Well, it's all really reminiscent of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. You know what I mean? Like David Arquette, like all the one-liners he has with Paul Rubens. Like, because the movie has... Dracula 2000 has this really dour... pace and dour, like it's all dead and oh my god, this poor girl whose mother's dead and all this stuff. But these vampires that aren't Dracula are fucking bebopping and scatting all over the place.
It's because they're trying to make Scream with vampires. Yeah. It's just like how the movie they did in like the early 2000s, Cursed. It's the same thing with Wes Craven's Curse. Like, he's just trying to recreate the vibe of Scream with werewolves.
Yeah.
And it's so terrifically unsuccessful. I mean, it's really embarrassing because you see right through that. Because one, it's the same company, but two, it's only 4 years out and you're trying to write that snappy Kevin Williamson dialogue and all that stuff, and it's just not fucking happening.
Well, but it doesn't work because magic is involved. Like, once magic becomes part of your story, everything changes. It's not kids that are obsessed with horror movies and blah blah blah. It's self-referential violence. It's fucking vampires and Dracula and Van Helsings.
I think to a degree, and I don't know. I don't want to say this is a mandatory thing because Buffy didn't do it this way, and I don't care too much for the movie, but the TV show I really liked, but they didn't. Stick to this, but I feel like for the most part, when you're dealing with vampires, you need a certain level of class that you have to stick to. Like, there's a certain level of, maturity that you have to have.
Decorum for vampires.
Yes, thank you. And the fact that, as you put it, they're bebopping and scatting all over the place. It just feels like square peg, round hole.
To wit, Danny Masterson's a fucking vampire. and he's just being Danny Masterson.
Well, it's that, and then there's Omar Epps has something. Oh, this is a terrible line in this the big battle where the two of them fight all these vampires in the school gymnasium or whatever. He's like, what's his name? Jonny Lee Miller is going around and he's like trying to think of all the stuff he knows about vampire lore and what he can do or whatever. And he holds up a cross.
This is a great part.
And fucking Omar Epps goes,
Sorry, sport. I'm an atheist.
like, really? Atheism gags? Like, fucking stop.
You can't if a vampire doesn't believe in God, which Dracula believes in, but it just doesn't work. Why would it cancel it out? You know what I mean? Like, why would just him not believing God cancel out God's power against evil?
Yeah, exactly. Like, they are products of like Christian lore of some kind. So it doesn't, I'm sure at some point Dracula fucking nabbed a Jewish guy along the way, and the rules fucking apply, man.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with your or your religious beliefs.
Maybe even like a Star of David would hurt a vampire because it's got like a religious connotation to it.
That would be awesome. That would be such like an affirming moment for Jewish people because I kind of always feel like in these movies, it kind of proves Christianity right at the end of the day because it's just like it's like the cross works, so that means Jesus came, and that means that's the one true religion, right? Everybody,
well, folks, if you want to see some good like Jewish folklore, check out this movie called Der Golem from like 20s German Expressionism. I think pretty sure it's silence, right, Andrew?
It's silent, yeah.
And that is about a giant clay stone man that comes to life. And it's like a Jewish European legend.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I mean, I think the whole idea is, like this stuff affects vampires because vampires are, the anti-religion. Like they're demons. So theoretically, any kind of symbol of religious good would fuck them up. And but in this case, in this world, it's all rooted around Christianity and everything. And
to the point where Omar Epps is like, sorry, bro, I'm an atheist. And then Jonny Lee Miller's like, God loves you anyway. It's like this. It's like a snappy one-liner, but it's also like, come to church sometimes. We're pretty hip these days. You know what I mean?
There's so much shit like that. There's so much shit of like, the end of this movie, Mary has all those lines about like, he still loves you. He still loves you, Count Dracula. And then it's like getting to a point where Dracula's like, no, he doesn't. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, Kirk Cameron, Wes Craven. So most of these vampires get slaughtered. Well, at least Danny Masterson finally bites it here.
Bites it. Jennifer Esposito and Omar Epps get away.
Jennifer Esposito is arrested by the police.
Yeah. And then she has this kind of awesome, like, Terminator 2 scene where she's, like, getting interrogated by detectives.
It's Terminator 2 meets Basic Instinct.
Yeah, 'cause she's all being all sexy, and she's just like, oh, you don't know what it's like to have this inside you, and, like, I want you inside me. And then she talks about, like, she could see the line of his cock through his pants, and I'm like, woo!
And the thing that's really annoying about this is, like, she's saying all this shit, and on the other side of this, like, double-sided mirror or whatever, there's, like, a couple of, police detectives or whatever. And this one police detective is like a fucking wolf out of like a Looney Tune. He's like licking his lips like, oh my God, what is she saying? Oh, the outline of my cock, huh? You're just like, come on. How about a little professionalism? Like, you let your guard down every time some fucking suspect starts saying all seductive things to you?
No, but it's Mardi Gras week.
That's the reason that detective doesn't work Vice anymore. They're like, you know what, Ted, homicide for you. But Dracula comes in, busts her out, and he does have this really one cool line. Like there's like the doctor is like screaming his head off because Dracula's gonna kill him, and he has this line:
"Dignity, doctor."
Which is kind of great.
It's kind of badass. Like, Gerard Butler doesn't do a terrible job, except that he has to keep that Scottish accent at bay.
Yeah, which is, that's like holding a lion back with a dog leash. It's really tough. And, to his credit, though, I mean, he really does the best you can with a thick fucking brogue like that,
Yeah.
man. Like, it's just, if he was just playing a Scottish vampire and not fucking Romanian Dracula, like, maybe we're getting somewhere.
Mcleod the Vampire. I fucking love that movie.
Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod.
They turned me into a vampire on the moors.
So he kills the shit out of that guy. Jennifer Esposito kills the shit out of that horn dog detective.
And like, this is when Christopher Plummer sits Johnny Lee Miller down on his knee and is like, all right, now here's the story of vampires. And like, it's this long ass thing with flashbacks, and he's talking like, he basically like, in the beginning when you see Dracula go to England, that's when like finally Van Helsing got the better of him, and like they caged him, they kind of sort of killed him, but there's no way in this world, there's no way to kill Dracula. That's
right.
That's the big thing. And he's like, and I've been keeping myself alive through these leeches and some prime smack. It's been a great time.
All I had to do was push off once a night. I got sky high, and I've been alive for 200 years.
And now it keeps him alive, but it doesn't make him a vampire, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's
kind
never
of vague.
insinuated that he's a vampire.
right. So it's just like, you got to take vampire blood through like the subsidiary that is a leech and then funnel it into you. That is your account.
That's how you don't infect yourself with vampirism. I mean, because if you think about it in the mindset of like the Blade lore, like vampirism is a virus.
Yeah.
And a couple other vampire things over the years have done that, treating it like a virus kind of a thing.
Right.
So yeah, like if he's directly injecting the shit into himself, like you're gonna infect yourself.
Well, I need a blood transfusion, but I don't want to get AIDS, so I'm going to funnel it through a leech, and then no AIDS, right?
And he's like, now he's after my daughter. God damn it! And because like she's like 1/8 Dracula on her father's side.
right? Yeah,
essentially.
exactly.
Why is she related at all?
To who? Christopher Plummer?
Yeah. Did I miss something?
He's her father.
Why?
Because Eric, when a man and a woman love each other.
But why do I need this in this movie?
Oh no, yeah, it's complete garbage.
Well, because that's the way. Because
And
again, this is a new hit, fucking Dracula. It's Dracula 2000. Everybody, it's got to be. It can't be stuffy old Van Helsing anymore. It's got to be this hot chick who's like the next generation vampire on her, Buffy.
Yeah. Do you think Abraham Van Helsing is out there like every century or so? Yeah, I knock up some chick, no big deal. I mean, I'm not going to leave London. There's fucking Dracula in the cooler over there.
But speaking of Dracula 2000, the best trivia on IMDb
is good.
Is whoever the writer was on this project, or the credited writer now, is got this call from Harvey Weinstein. He's like, Barry, I got this great project for you. It's called Dracula 2000. He's like, oh yeah, is the script any good? And he's like, it's crap. He's like, then why'd you buy it? It's called Dracula 2000.
This is how the Weinstein brothers prepared for Y2K. All we gotta do is release a movie called Something 2000. The world will be saved, right, Harv? Right, Bob?
You want to do Reservoir Dogs 2000? That wouldn't make a... Let's do it. It's 2000.
The English Patient 2000.
Death Race 2000. So, yeah, that's the story of how this movie got made. Harvey Weinstein likes numbers that match with the year.
Harvey Weinstein's the last of the cigar-chomping producers. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, the last guy, it's got to be big. 2000, everybody loves 2000. It's got to be huge.
Yeah, no, like Kevin Smith once compared him. He said he was like modern times Jack Warner, which I love picture, like big suspenders, cigar.
Yeah, just doing it.
Bad attitude.
Mhm. Very difficult and picky when coming to work every day.
Probably could kill you and leave you in a ditch, and that's just how it is.
Oh, absolutely. You don't cross people like that, man. Which is why this movie is a C+.
Rent it immediately.
From your local Blockbuster. It's on the wall.
There's a whole wall of them. 40 copies.
No one ever took them. To this day.
So, I mean, this is when the movie really kind of muddles along. Like,
Yeah.
because it's all a lot of like this. Because our protagonist is this woman, this Mary woman, who's like, and we say this a lot about a lot of movies, which I always think is the worst way to have a protagonist in an adventure story, where they're 10 steps away from the action. all the time,
Always.
until like the last 10 minutes, when she realized Dracula's Dracula.
And it's like, you know what, Mary? Let's fucking pay attention for 2 seconds, shall we? Like, there's really not too much to put together.
Yeah,
here.
let me think. My last name's Van Helsing, and that's number one. And then there's vampires.
There's that book that everyone keeps talking about. That silly, fictitious account.
Yeah, she must have gotten that growing up every goddamn week.
I know the books, like, selection at the Virgin Megastore was always the most pathetic part of that store.
That's actually gotta suck. Growing up in England and your last name's Van Helsing, you go to a border. Hey, Van Helsing, go slay me a vampire! Like throw an orange at her head.
Joke's on them now.
There sure is.
So, I mean, yeah, so eventually then they just kind of get on the case of Dracula, but it's weird because Mary Van Helsing and Abraham Van Helsing never meet up with each other.
Never.
Because he is viciously murdered by Dracula before this can all go down.
Ooh, this is a bad scene. I mean, it's kind of one of the best scenes in the movie.
It's not bad. I mean, it's like, you know, Gerard Butler's like, Abraham Van Helsing, I knew it was you, or whatever. And he's like, no, Dracula, not my daughter. And fucking Gerard Butler just picks up this old man and, like, tosses him, like, over his shoulder into this mirror.
There's a lot of Matrix spins in this movie because it's 2000.
There's a lot of wire work.
Mm-hmm. And he goes right through it. And then, like, I guess, like, Christopher Plummer tries to, like, hide under a bed and he gets, like, glanced.
Oh, yeah, it's a total Jason Voorhees killing. Like, they stick the big fucking pole through the mattress, and he's just a fucking shish kebab.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, by the way, this is how the greatest vampire hunter of legend dies. Like, he's been staying alive for so many centuries just to be knifed in a fucking pillow.
Yeah, he dies under vitamin C's comforter.
Speaking of which, I don't want to
Fred's forever.
I don't want to miss the scene when Dracula himself goes into a Virgin Megastore.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. So he goes into the Virgin Megastore because he somehow knows that that's where Mary works.
But first, he stands outside the Virgin Megastore and watches a Monster Magnet music video for like 3 minutes.
And you see that Dave Grohl looking motherfucker singing that horrible song. And I want to get the line right because it's really horrible. He's looking at this video and he's watching it and he just goes, brilliant. And they're like, fucking seriously?
You don't like Monster Magnet.
No way Dracula likes Monster Magnet. You know why? Because no one liked Monster Magnet. What a fucking misstep in the music industry.
And that's the thing about Dracula being the top of the monster totem pole. He's a man of taste and culture.
Trendsetter.
And it's not even the Monster Magnet hit. That's the problem.
It wasn't Space Lord Mother.
Yeah, exactly. I've been stuffed in your pocket for the last 100 days. Yeah, I can sing that whole song.
God.
Last 100 centuries.
I've been stuck in your crypt. That'd be if I was Weird Al, I would.
Yeah, we need to do a Dracula cover of that song.
How many songs did Weird Al do about Dracula?
I don't know. I've never listened to a Weird Al CD.
I don't know. I just imagine. Oh, I guess I'm thinking of Dr. Demento or one of those people.
Yeah, it's kind of all the same.
But so he's going...
Sub-comedy. My apologies to recording artists Weird Al Yankovic and Elliott Smith in this episode.
It's too late for Elliott Smith. You're getting haunted.
Eric Siska stars in Burn Down the Music Industry. So after he watches this sweet Monster Magnet video, he goes inside this Virgin Megastore and he's walking around and it's, you know what I never need to see? Dracula fucking perusing the new metal section. Like, it's so stupid.
Maybe he needed a sweet Nightmare Before Christmas poster. Maybe that's why he's going in there.
We'll spruce up the crypt. But in this scene, he's also a killer babe magnet, man. Like,
which is a ridiculous part of this movie is like, it's the middle of Mardi Gras, and this Virgin Megastore is filled with nothing but beautiful women. There's no dudes looking for CDs that night. Like, it's just all these chicks, and they're all just like, Dracula. Oh, love that Dracula.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Virgin Megastore is where all the sweet babes and the immortal gods go to shop. Go to Virgin Megastore.
You can see Sidney Crawford and Thor at Virgin Megastore.
You don't know? The New Orleans branch hit fucking Dracula and babes.
Mine just had fucking Fred Durst. What a disappointment.
Yeah, New York really got the short shaft.
So he's walking around and he runs into Vitamin C and she's like, "Oh, can I help you find a Monster Magnet album?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for Mary." And she's like, "Oh, well, I'm her roommate and she's not here right now." And it's instantly just picking this guy up.
Yeah, she brings him back to her house, to Mary's house, and they have this they live in this crazy gothic mansion for no reason.
Yeah, it's a movie house where, Vitamin C's got the fucking bottom floor and Mary's got the top floor.
2 floors? You're both working at Virgin fucking Records?
Yeah, the rent is $60 a month.
And she's like, "Well, yeah, you can come in and wait for Mary then." And then she's like, once he's in her house, she's like, "Oh, I forgot to ask your name." "Yeah, you did. You just invited this fucking creep into your house."
And he's like, Frank Dracula." Yes.
"My name's Angus Dracula." "From the Dracula clan."
"I mean family."
I mean, old Dracula.
Dracula. Mac Dracula.
Yeah, Mac Dracula.
Mac Dracula, yeah.
Angus Mac Dracula.
Oh, God, I want that so much.
That's a shitty comic book title somewhere. So they then proceed to just get down to some zero gravity sex acts, by the way.
Oh, they're fucking on the ceiling, having a party. Because they're having regular sex and it goes, whoop, and they go all the way to the ceiling.
They just have a near miss with a fucking ceiling fan.
Yes.
It's like if Peter Venkman screwed that Sigourney Weaver flying chick there.
There's no Dana, only Zool.
Yeah, if he fucked Zool, man. That's what the scene is, right?
How tempted do you think Peter Venkman was to get that going?
You know what? No, I really love that scene because it's like, you know what? This woman's, it's like the best case against date rape. He's like, this woman would probably have sex with me under different circumstances, but I know for a fact that she's not in her right mind, so I'm leaving it alone.
He's a good guy.
He is. He's a class act, that Venkman.
He's
all talk.
Yeah, it might be kind of hard to resist Zool, being honest with you.
Ray Stantz, on the other hand, is an inexperienced boy man.
Oh, yeah, he would do anything. That weird blowjob ghost scene.
What I love about that, though, is the story is that's from a deleted scene where the Ghostbusters take a case at like a cabin in the woods.
What?
Yeah, I want to see the Ghostbusters camping trip. Because they're roasting Stay Puft Marshmallows.
The Ghostbusters versus the Evil Dead.
That is some fucking fan film if I've ever heard it.
Shudder.
So yeah, he fucks Vitamin C and turns her into a vampire.
And then Christopher Plummer dies, and then finally Mary comes home after her shift or whatever. I mean, at some point Omar Epps dies, but it's kind of a waste of time.
He dies and he's decapitated, which is a big way of killing vampires in this movie.
Yeah.
And his head is thrown into a Virgin Megastore dumpster.
That's the thing. Is there's so all right.
Even the dumpster is product placement on it.
Exactly. You have so many scenes of the Virgin Megastore. I haven't forgot to go to Virgin Megastore and pick up this awesome soundtrack. Leave me alone.
Honestly, folks, we are not exaggerating. Probably about 1/3 of this film takes place at Virgin Megastore or in the parking lot of a Virgin Megastore.
And if it's not at the Virgin Megastore, someone is wearing their Virgin Megastore staff t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And what's great now, though, is if you showed this movie to a 15-year-old kid, they'd be like, what the fuck's Virgin Megastore?
Yeah.
Because that shit's just done.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, what, the airplane company? What are they doing? They sold what the fuck's a CD?
Yeah, they're an everything company.
They are an everything company. You think Richard Branson's going to the moon?
We'll see.
Because he wants to do that whole tourism to space thing.
I kind of imagine he'll be like that guy in Contact, about William Hurt in Contact at the end, and he's like, "Want to go for a ride?" And he's got all sorts of terrible cancer.
Man, Contact is a bad movie.
I've seen it 6 times. I don't know why.
What business do you have watching Contact 6 times?
It's a very watchable movie.
Yeah, because, the aliens send us Hitler back, right, or something?
They send Hitler broadcasts.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And you got, what was that, Jake Busey?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of Jake Busey.
Jake Busey, long hair, is a nut.
Yeah, teething around.
Who's proven to be right.
Yeah, he was. I don't know. I mean, at this point, like, finally, Jonny Lee Miller meets up with Mary and takes her to the church as a kind of a safe house. And they're like, we need to figure out a way to kill Dracula. Let's look at all these. It's like it's the now we're looking at books in the library scene.
There's a research scene, which again, Buffy did so much better. You know, I could sit there and watch the Buffy TV show research scenes for hours on end.
Yeah, because it's fun, it's snappy, and like there's always
Characters you give a shit about, good dialogue, interesting things relayed.
I could never get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
It's lit reasonably well. This whole movie is so goddamn bright because I mean, like it's Scream. Like the score is entirely Scream. It's all like
totally
all over the place, and like it's all bright. Like, but that doesn't work for a fucking vampire movie.
No, I need like if you want to get colorful, the most you can do is some deep blues.
Yeah,
that's it, baby. Come on.
How about some deep red?
What about plaid? What are your feelings about plaid?
One thing I wanted to pop in before we get onto this research scene is when they are exiting Mary's house after the
this is my favorite thing in the world.
Jonny Lee Miller like gets her out of this house and whatever, and they turn around, and Dracula has turned into a gigantic wolf, and he jumps out of this house, and Jonny Lee Miller's got this gigantic like silver stake gun thing that Christopher Plummer gave him, and he shoots this shit off, and it hits this wolf square in the chest, and the wolf explodes into a flock of bats. All right.
Whatever you say, Dracula. Like that's all I can say.
To this movie's defense, we have never tried to shoot a wolf with a silver stake. We do not know the effects. Modern science, we do not know. It
could turn into a bunch of bats.
Yeah.
We should get out into the field immediately and see what we can do about this. Get some conclusive, concrete evidence.
Become a video podcast where we're just killing animals.
We'd get taken to jail pretty quickly.
We hate jail time.
But we hate PETA, I guess. It sucks. But at the end of the research scene, so Dracula shows up and he's like, stop reading all those books. And like,
what's that, the Bible?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I hate the Bible. It's propaganda, it is. And
he straight up calls it propaganda. You're like, come on.
And
well,
like,
in his defense, it does skew a favorable view of Jesus.
So like Jonny Lee Miller's like holding Dracula back with the Bible. He's like, "Run, Mary, run away!" And she does. And like Jonny Lee Miller opens this old like leather-bound Bible, and pages shoot out like a projectile,
and they're like kind of like glowing orange, like they're partially on fire. It's like I really want the page in the screenplay that describes this action, where it says, "And then the book explodes in the vampire beast's face." Because what an exploding book? Seriously?
It's as unwelcome and unknowable as Superman and Superman 2 throwing that cellophane S. Like, it's just like,
man.
What power is this now? All of a sudden, exploding books?
It's just nothing. And this phases Dracula for approximately half a second. It doesn't like everything in this movie. The whole idea of like Dracula is unstoppable because he's the first vampire or whatever.
Yeah.
It's such fucking bullshit. So they go to this graveyard, and because it's in New Orleans, so we have to go to a graveyard at some point.
Yep.
And Dracula's like dancing on top of all the fucking mausoleums, like running through this graveyard.
Dancing on the graveyard. Having a party.
Are you mixing up the Lionel Richie song with "We're Having a Party"?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. You know what, man? Go with it.
Just riff. Live it.
So there's a really shitty reference here where Gerard Butler like stands in front of this mausoleum, and what does it say?
Spencer Hepburn.
Spencer Hepburn, which it's like this movie has no right putting in things that's one of the filmmakers appreciated.
It should be like Christopher Hammer. Like that's like, that's kind of cool. Like,
exactly. Like how about fucking I don't know, Count Lugosi or something? You know what I mean? Like anything related to horror world, not fucking classic Hollywood. What are you doing? Neither of those actors ever played a vampire. They never set foot in a fucking horror movie.
Well, in my dream world, I would have cast Spencer Tracy as Dracula.
Oh man, he would have been a leather-faced Dracula if I ever saw one.
Yeah, he's more of a Lon Chaney.
He can only play mummies, phantoms of operas, and werewolves. not suave vampires.
Yeah, definitely not a sexy Dracula.
Did they set this movie in New Orleans to snag that Anne Rice fan base, by the way?
I don't know. I mean, it's just a colorful, hip location.
And I don't in the American prism of viewing vampire lore, I feel like New Orleans is the closest we can get to that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like, a town obsessed with the dead. And
It's like
whatever.
America's Europe,
New Orleans, America's Europe. I like that.
They're gonna change the name.
So what happens is she gets kidnapped by Dracula at this point.
And he brings it, of course, to like some church-ish thing, or not a church.
It's just like a
Building.
It actually looks like the courtyard from Melrose Place without the pool. Like Jonny Lee Miller, like what's really annoying about this is she gets captured, Dracula explodes into a cloud of fog.
Like you do.
And Jonny Lee Miller's left in the cemetery. Cut to Jonny Lee Miller walking down Bourbon Street with this huge gun and nobody saying anything. And then, the three brides of Dracula, which are Vitamin C, Jennifer Esposito, and we haven't touched on her too much.
Jerry Ryan.
But Jerry Ryan.
Well, she doesn't do anything in this movie.
That's true. She doesn't. She just makes a bunch of jokes about her huge boobs. And so the three of them are like the brides of Dracula, and they're like seducing Jonny Lee Miller or whatever. And he kind of has a shitty fight scene with them. Instantly kills Jerry Ryan, by the way, so flat out not doing anything in this movie.
Yep.
So tell me, did you ever dream about making it with a TV star?
And this sets up like the final standoff, and the whole thing is on this rooftop like greenhouse or whatever, and it's Vitamin C and Jennifer Esposito tie Jonny Lee Miller to a post or whatever. Which this is so annoying because it's like, you know what? Just fucking kill him.
You would have killed him anyway because you're a bloodthirsty vampire.
You're
and,
an animal.
You're not eating anything today. But there's also this thing where like Mary's obsessed with figuring out. She's like, there's something from the Dracula legend that doesn't add up. We're missing something. So I think at this point she kind of like lets herself get bitten just to know the unknowable.
Right, but then it's like, so how does she know that the bite of the vampire will tell the story? Like, like they do like a mind meld or whatever. And I remember when it happened, when I saw it in the theater, and I wasn't alone in the theater. There were shockingly a bunch of audience members. There were like 2 or 3 separate from opposite ends of the auditoriums combinations of what the fucks and you've got to be kidding me when they reveal that Dracula's true identity, Judas Iscariot. What? Like, come on.
It makes absolutely no sense. It's the biggest dog shit I've ever been fed. That you're telling me that Vlad the Impaler, Count Dracula, is the same person as Judas, betrayer of Jesus?
And it's bullshit because like they show this scene and it's very sympathetic to Judas, and it's just like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just playing my part, and like he gets 30 pieces. It's like the flashiest the movie gets because like all of a sudden like he bites her, and then they're in this like white bedroom, and
it turns into those fantasy scenes from that Jennifer Lopez movie, The Cell.
Yeah, it does.
Like, because all of a sudden Mary's just dressed in this like beautiful outfit, and there's this like red silk 4-post fuck bed. Like
Vincent D'Onofrio's wearing a dress.
Slowly walking out of a pool of water, whatever the fuck happens in that movie. That's a trippy flick, by the way. I would actually recommend that movie.
But yeah, and then like then we go back and we see like he kisses Jesus on the cheek and all this shit, and then like and then it's just him hanging himself, and all the pieces of silver go away, and then he doesn't die.
That's the whole thing, right? Is God steps in and he's like, "Not so fast, Judas. No suicide for you." And then like he just hangs there till the sun goes down. He doesn't fucking die, and that's how a vampire started. So God is responsible for all the carnage. Yeah. Back in 1800s London up until 2000 New Orleans, all the carnage. Thanks a lot, God.
Hey, Judas, you betrayed my innocent young boy, Jesus. And for the punishment for that, I want you to stick around, betray some more people, hurt some innocent folk.
Yeah, as your punishment, you get to kill fuck, steal, and live on the high horse.
Yeah, forever.
For all eternity.
Oh, yeah?
How the fuck is that punishment?
But guess what? No sunlight for you, buddy. You could do what you want, but reasonable. After dark.
And you, Doubting Thomas, you're going to be Hellraiser now. Like, what? I don't know. What the fuck? It doesn't make any sense. How is that a punishment?
I'd love to see the scene of Doubting Thomas, like his beard and long brown hair just all pulled off and just pins getting shoved into his face. And God's like, one more pin, Doubting Thomas. 2 more pins, Doubting Thomas.
And here's your orb, Doubting Thomas.
Now get in this cube, Doubting Thomas. Off to the hell dimension with you.
Took me 7 days to make Earth. Took me an afternoon to make all these boogeymen.
Here's your new friends, Doubting Thomas. I call them the Cenobites.
Got a real monster squad with all these rotten disciples. oh, Peter, you're going to deny Jesus, huh? What's the Frankenstein for you?
Wait. What? But Frankenstein wasn't around yet to be.
No. He lived forever. You're wrong, Eric.
It'll come back around.
They all live forever. And you, Mary Magdalene, Medusa for you.
She's going to Greece.
And that's how.
Going back in time to become Medusa, by the way.
Time travel and snake hair for you.
And instead of turning people to stone, she turns them to pillars of salt.
Yeah, that's right.
Because why not? Why the fuck not?
And Pontius Pilate as Cloverfield.
I always feel bad for those 2 other dudes that got crucified along with Jesus.
Well, one of them goes to heaven, so he's got it good. But the other one's a rotten shit, and just is like, fuck it.
And Jesus turns him into Hitler, so so it's okay.
That's his punishment.
That other guy's Ray Winstone from The Departed.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck it. Crucify me, fuck it.
He kind of is, because, here's the thing. If I'm being crucified next to this guy that's been saying he's a god, and I don't believe in shit, and this other guy's like, hey, man, can you get me out of this jam? And he's like, and this day you'll be with me in heaven. I wouldn't be like, fuck you, pussy. Like, I'd try and get in on that sweet action, just in case.
Because, as a lying, cheating scumbag, don't you possess the ability to fake the funk and give a shit about Jesus for 2 seconds?
But in your mind, you're like, I'm not going to, my dying breath, I'm going to have some dignity. I'm not going to fucking beg a hobo for salvation. Hey, buddy, we're all equal here. I got nails in my arms, too. You don't see me, right? You tell people to write a book about it. Blasphemy.
Fuck heaven, I want to be a vampire.
Yeah. How do I get into this vampire action?
I just feel bad for those guys because, talk about getting screwed over on the world stage, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, all right, so it's me and then this rapist. Okay, and who's that other guy? Oh, he's what? Oh, he's the son of God, and we're killing. Oh, this is going to be really terrible.
They're the Pete Best of the biblical age.
Oh, so Dracula 2000.
I mean, the movie. This is the big fucking reveal, and now she's got this knowledge, and for some reason, that's the kind of. This is one of the things that this movie never nails down. Does being a vampire make you evil? Because a lot of. Most vampire lore nails that down. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you make the choice, like the hunger gets you and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't do it in this movie. It's just super ambiguous.
It's super ambiguous. And then you've got... Okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So Jennifer Esposito has hand-to-hand combat with Jonny Lee Miller, even though she's a fucking feral animal and could just kill him instantly.
Yeah.
She decides to shoot him, or try to shoot him with the stake gun.
Well, I don't know if we want to talk about the lip-biting scene. Is that something even worth it?
Well, so Dracula turns Mary into a vampire. And then, they're like, all right, now you have to kill Jonny Lee Miller. That's your first fucking sacrifice. Just do it. Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
And she hey,
yeah. Do it.
Get it.
Yeah, vampire action.
Do it. Yeah.
It's like the guy.
Sounds like a rapist Joe Pesci.
It's like the guy in fall. It's like the Nazi in Falling Down. Give it to me. Give it to me. And then he gets stabbed in the heart.
What's this dude in there?
That guy loves getting tortured and killed, which is weird.
Come on, give it to me. Give it to me.
So she like bites the inside of her mouth and just drools all over his neck and fakes, biting his neck or whatever. But what doesn't make any sense about this is there is no preset plan for this.
No.
So she's just doing it, and Jonny Lee Miller's like, ah, like screaming. How would he know that she's faking that? Like, what? I would be like, wait, what do you? Oh, this doesn't hurt. So, it's a plan. Oh, I'm ruined.
Ow, that sucks.
Ow.
And
Ow.
It's like they're old partners. They just met tonight.
Yeah, this isn't fucking Riggs and Murtaugh.
She's not like pulling on her ear, and he's like, I get it.
Martin, I knew that when you went to bite my neck, you weren't really going to do it. I knew you weren't going to do it, Martin. So then like Vitamin C's like, she faked it, the bitch. And then like they just start fighting. She gets decapitated.
Oh, she gets decapitated right quick.
And so here we are. And so it's Dracula and Mary.
They're having a Dracula fight outside.
It's a big old Matrix Dracula fight. And this is when she knows what's going on or whatever. And then, of course, wherever they are, there's a gigantic neon lit fucking crucifix with a very smug looking Jesus drawing. Like he's just looking down like, yeah, okay. He's got like a side smile.
It's one of the I prefer these. It's a very like it's not a very Anglican looking Jesus, which I like. There's some ethnicity there, and like he's super skinny and not your ripped super Christ, which I'm not crazy about.
Those are creepy.
Yeah.
But in this movie, the flashbacks to actually Jesus Christ, because he's a character in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's more of kind of like a blondish, dirty blonde beard or whatever.
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
No,
doesn't work for me.
Nobody has like a dejected Baywatch cast member.
No sandy blonde hair back in Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
So like Jonny Lee Miller and you're right. Jennifer Esposito's like trying to shoot him with his own gun. It's like, you're a fucking vampire.
Yeah, just finish it off so you can double team this other vampire.
Exactly.
It's my first day.
You're right. It is her first day.
Did someone date double team? Yeah.
Yeah, she's absolutely terrible in this movie.
She's awful. She's just a fucking rancid horn dog. And, that's like, why isn't Vitamin C acting like that? Why isn't Jerry Ryan acting like that? Like, she's just horning it the fuck up for no... And, I get it. Like, the wives of Dracula, the brides of Dracula, daughters of Dracula, whatever incarnation they are, they're supposed to be seductive and whatever, but she's just like, yeah.
She says, I like to suck twice in this film.
She's making both of the suck jokes in this movie, and both times I was like, talk about just seeing a balloon deflate.
And then Jonny Lee Miller cuts her head off with garden shears, which doesn't make sense because I thought the whole way you can cut a vampire's head off was with silver, right?
I don't know. Maybe they're really fancy garden shears.
This is America's Europe.
Antique garden shears.
So then it gets down to just Dracula and Mary, and she like wraps a bunch of wire around his neck.
But this whole fight, she's trying to tell him how much Jesus loves him.
Yes, that's the whole thing. Is she's like, he'll forgive you, he still will love you, and he's like, no, he won't.
Fight that woman.
And she wraps this wire around him and just like wraps her arms around him and throws herself off the building. And it's like, oh, okay, so the way you kill Dracula is to hang him. All right. And then like, so that's happening and he's getting hung, but he's definitely still alive. And I'm like, all right, well, wait a second. Like, what was the problem that Christopher Plummer couldn't crack? And then the sun just starts coming up and Dracula fucking dies. And you're like, wait, why Abraham Van Helsing, like the ground zero of vampire hunters, couldn't figure this shit out like for hundreds of years?
You just put him in the backyard, chain him up like a goddamn dog, and you're done.
He could have had a normal family life. His wife and daughter wouldn't have had to flee to New Orleans. He wouldn't have had to be injecting himself for 200 years.
Yeah.
Maybe he figured it out, but he was still like too addicted to the stuff.
Is it a secret?
But the weird part about it is, and I mean, again, like, look, I was raised Catholic, and I have no problem with Catholicism, Christianity, any of that stuff. But this movie is just so pandering to Christian mythology, where Dracula gets into it at the end and like forgives Mary Van Helsing for killing him and like releases her from his curse.
He learns to turn the other cheek.
He does.
He's like, all right, you're right. Maybe that old bastard I double crossed was gone to something.
I just don't understand. Is that a thing? Like I've heard of the part of the vampire lore where it's like if you kill the vampire who made you, sometimes the curse is lifted.
Right, like the Lost Boys or something.
Yeah,
Or
but
like The Simpsons.
yes, you kill Mr. Burns and he won't be vampires anymore. But I've never heard it like the vampire can just be like, nah, we're cool.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
We're square.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, we're settled up. I'm going to die. I might as well let you go.
And the last 3 minutes of this movie is so confusing. So, like, she has crazy vampire eyes, and then he goes, I forgive you. And, like, her eyes turn white and then turn regular, and you're like, oh, I guess she's not a vampire anymore. And then he cooks up like you do when the sun happens.
Yeah, he fries up and whatever. And then it's just fast forward to they're back in London, and there's this voiceover of
She's writing
her.
a diary.
Of course, because every vampire hunter has to keep a diary. You just have to. In the case that you yourself are slain, you know.
Long ago, Judas Iscariot tried to die for his sins, but he was denied. Today the rope did not break, and he was burned in the first light of dawn. I am now the keeper of what remains. If the soul of Dracula still flickers in his ashes, I will keep it forever contained. For the first time in my life, I know who I am and where my future lies. I am Mary Van Helsing. I am my father's daughter, and nothing can ever take that away.
You know, she's talking about how I have the ashes of Dracula, you know, back with it. By the way, they bring the whole coffin back. It's back in Christopher Plummer's like hiding place. What?
Family heirloom.
It's just an urn. Like, you just need an urn at that point, though. Why do you have a big fucking coffin? And also, though, here's the big mistake that she makes. Divvy up those ashes, man. Fucking 4 corners of the globe. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, why keep them together?
Exactly. So, yeah. So she's like, all right, you know, I know who I am now. I'm Mary Van Helsing. It's kind of like she's putting like the last chapter in her diary before she goes off to college, because she's kind of like, I'm so excited to start the new chapter of my life tomorrow.
She's wearing leather pants. It's a very empowering scene.
That's how you know she's down with the sickness, man. She's got those leather fucking pants on.
But at the last shot of the movie is her like, it's kind of like, it's either this was a backdoor pilot for a USA TV series, because she's like, and every week I'll fight the forces of the undead, doubting Thomas or no.
Lady Van Helsing.
And the last shot is her eye turning into a vampire eye again. I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Well, I mean, she's just got that shit going through her blood, man. That
Yeah.
her father gave her. So that's like, even Dracula saying we're cool, you know, that's like a thanks but no
it's
thanks.
It's also potentially setting up Dracula 2001.
Well, they had
A Space Odyssey.
oh man,
Dracula in space. I don't know.
They did. This movie was directed by Patrick Lussier. He did this movie. He did Drive Angry with Nicolas Cage. He also directed the 2 direct-to-DVD sequels of this movie.
Which I believe both, or at least one of them, stars Jason Scott Lee, who played Liu Kang.
Yes, I think he's in both of them.
Yeah.
But
So
that's
that's a
just
fun karate element, probably.
I hope so. Vampires versus people who know karate. I'm
That's
down.
always fun.
Oh man, this movie was not fun though. Would anybody recommend this movie?
No, there's nothing. I mean, like, it's interesting for the Judas element, but like, it's just one of those things where like, it shouldn't be a twist. It's got nothing to do with Dracula. Like,
Let's be perfectly clear.
I don't understand why you couldn't make like Dracula 2000. You're right, Harvey Weinstein. That's a great concept. Let's just make Dracula 2000. Nowhere in there does it say Christianity's Dracula 2000. That's not the movie I need to see.
The Holy Bible presents Dracula 2000.
Monty Python and the Dracula 2000.
And yeah, that sounds better than this. I would not recommend this. I mean, we watched so many movies for this thing, and this one is just hard to get through for me.
I mean, on top of, you know, I would not recommend it either. On top of it being, you know, just a shitty vampire movie, just a shitty horror movie, it's a boring fucking horror movie, man.
Yeah.
You want to talk about downtime. I mean, it's just slow as shit. There's a lot of looking at your phone in this movie. And, you know, if you're looking for vampire movies, it's not like there's a short supply. Like
great stuff.
Go to Netflix and find almost anything else.
I think the original Bela Lugosi's on Netflix.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Universal flicks got put
The
on.
whole
Instant.
Monster Squad's up there. Watch that instead of this.
I almost don't. I mean, because the reason I watched them was because we talked about it on the show. But those Blade movies, like I actually just rewatched them, and that's what Dracula 2000 is. It's like cool, sexy action vampire, blah blah blah. With the year 2000, there's techno music, no Linkin Park. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean the soundtrack alone should put you off to this. And I said it at the end of the Spawn episode, I believe it was, and I'll recommend it again here. I would watch Blade Trinity over this movie. Blade Trinity is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, and it was more engaging and entertaining than this movie.
Oh yeah, dude. A stake through the heart. Fucking funniest thing of all time.
Well, you're all welcome.
It's due to it was my ringtone for a while. When you'd call, it would be a stake through the heart. A stake through the heart.
When anyone else calls, it would be, I don't know, one of his popular songs.
Miss Misery,
Or Needle in the Hay.
That's a real blast.
No, it was actually, I had the graduation song from Vitamin C who's featured in the film.
Oh, man. I keep waiting for that comeback of hers.
Yeah, any day now.
Yeah, you can check the Wikipedia, and there's actually documentation of her having recorded, I think, 2 albums to come back to.
Oh. And they just...
Yeah.
Did they come out?
No.
Oh.
You know what's amazing? Johnny Lee Miller is just sitting on a brick of money right now.
Playing goddamn Sherlock Holmes, dude.
That guy is doing just okay.
He's got it figured right out.
Hold on.
I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say.
Okay, yeah, you're about to put the curse on Johnny Miller.
No. Because, man, that sequel's coming out. They're filming that sequel.
What sequel?
To, what do you call it?
Trainspotting.
Trainspotting, yeah. Trainspotting.
Weirdly,
sequel.
Trainspotting is a summer movie for me. I kind of watch it every summer.
Really? Well,
Get you in the mood to go to the beach.
Get ready for Trainspotting 2000.
So next week's summer rerun, as the rerun train keeps going.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
This is probably one of the all-time fan favorites episodes. We'll get to that next week. Until then, I'm Andrew Jupin.
Steven Sadak.
Eric Siska.
Take it easy.